Welcome back to part two of understanding Ayurveda through the Sankhya philosophy. In this topic, I'm going to go where we left off in terms of the ahamkar and ego and build into what they call the gunas, or the three kind of qualities or modes of existence coming from this ego, and into the mind, and then into the physical sensory organs and the elements. So I'll share that again. Pull this up. Okay, so if you remember, clean this up a little bit. This is the Sankhya philosophy diagram that I was trained under. I know Vasant Lad uses this. I don't know if he created this diagram or if this is much older, but we're going to go off that. So we talked about Purusha, which is the witness, kind of the unmanifest consciousness, Prakriti being matter, that which is manifested, more of the feminine creator, the male consciousness aspect is one way to think about it. The Maha, the universal collective consciousness, once those meet, having both of those polarities. So there is a polarity I want to highlight in this philosophy system. The kind of great forgetting into the from the spirit collective consciousness into the individual I, the I am statement, the ahamkara, and we're going to jump down in continue down into this section here. So I'll read from the book here that Laud has. Sattva. So these sattva, rajas, tamas are the gunas. These are the three modes of existence. Laud refers to sattva here as is stability, pure aspect, awakening, essence, and light. So it's creative potential. Sattva is known a little bit more in the West, very like peaceful. There's a sattvic lifestyle trend, kind of movement, being very sattvic. It is that potential, that creativity, that kind of peace, essence, light aspect. But also there's rajas and tamas that are important and necessary for day-to-day living experience as well. So sattva is peace, it's potential. Rajas is transformation, it's movement, it's very active, it's kind of the energy that moves things around. Laud says here, Rajas is dynamic movement, is how he refers to it. And then tamas is static. It is potential energy, inertia, darkness, ignorance, and matter. So in some of the Vedic philosophy too, like if we're too tamasic, if we're too into the physical form, it's ignorance. It's too disconnected from the spirit. So the bias is that it's ignorant. If we're too consumed in our physical pleasures, ignorance is the bias there within this system. And rajas is the movement. So reverse engineering too, if we're feeling very lethargic or feeling very heavy, right? It's very sensory, it's very earthy, depressed. The thing that helps us get out of that is movement, getting our energy moving, right? We have also a lot of that very achievement, very active oriented, very passionate. So that's good. That has its place. But also, if we're stuck here, we burn out. We do too much. We are overachieving, and there's burnout in that. There's still ignorance in trying to achieve too much, seeing that life is to achieve. Sattva is the balance of these two. I've seen diagrams where sattva being in the middle as well. Sattva can have a pursuit of knowledge and peace, though. In the Bhagavad Gita, which is a spiritual text in the Vedas, it talks about still sattva being an improper pursuit if we try to learn too much, being too clever, right? There's this kind of thing of cleverness beyond wisdom, right? We can create so many things. We're very clever, we're very witty, but if we don't put that up to our higher good, if we use it kind of laterally or ran to our senses, then it's for our own harm. right? It's very clever, the Industrial Revolution and things that we've done as humanity to create so many interesting things, but we've done it in a sense of exploiting our planet and exploiting each other and causing harm. So, cleverness, that would be an example of kind of collective cleverness without the wisdom to realize like that's not in good relation, that's not for higher service. So, little perspective on that. So, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, and I want to pause here because I forgot. There's this also has 24 aspects to it. So Purusha being the original creator is kind of think of as the zero. Prakriti being 1, Mahad 2, Ahamkara 3. And we kind of go through these here in this diagram, but the fourth aspect is the mind. So from the ego comes the mind, and these are the faculty, the cognitive action and the faculties. And this is like our emotions are like our mental perceptions of our physical senses, right? Like, and our spirit can kind of give us sensations through our physical body. We also, so it's kind of the middle, our spirit, our mind, and then our physical body, right? Those three intellects I talked about in the first video, how they relate. So the mind being the fourth quality, and then we start getting into the elements. So these were the gunas, the different modes of existence, kind of static, tamas. Rajas, very movable, very transformative. And then sattvic is kind of the balance of that, kind of like stillness in motion, so to speak, is one way I've learned to think about it. So from the mind, which comes through these gunas, is the elements. So we're going to come down here to the elements. So the fifth stage of this philosophy is that there's space, ether. In that space, there becomes movement, and that is air. So air starts moving in this space. From that air moving, it creates friction, eventually, which creates fire. The fire ends up creating moisture in that air, which creates water. Water leads to life, which creates earth and matter. So these, excuse me, are universal principles of the elements rooted in Ayurveda through the Sankhya philosophy into existence. And that was kind of the story in terms of that. So that'd be 5, 6, 7, 8 is the elements. I'll go more into this in the other video, but you hear of doshas in Ayurveda. Space and air combined are the dosha of vata, that which move things. And I'll go more into this later. Fire and water is the dosha called pitta, and that's which transforms things, or that's which digests things, like assimilates, evolves things. Fire, pitta. Think of fire and water, they have different states, they can transform, they transform different aspects of life. So there's interesting there, in space and air move things. So vata, that which moves, space and air. Pitta, that's what transforms, fire and water. And then the last two is water combines again with earth, and that makes the dosha, or the dosha of kapha, that which stabilizes. So earth and water provide stabilization, and these elements go into all the different aspects of mental qualities and physical qualities, which we'll learn more about. But that's the elements, and then the, I guess, aspects of it is next sound. So then each of these elements has kind of a application in the physical realm. So space allows for sound. Air allows for touch, movement. Fire allows for form or sight. There's another one note I have about this being sight is the guna of fire. Form is the guna of fire, so we can see it. Taste is the guna or application or the quality. Guna, think of as quality of water. Water helps us taste things. And odor is the guna or quality of earth. And these are Sanskrit words here too. You don't have to worry about memorizing all these. But those are the elements, and their qualities of those elements. That's the word I was looking for, the qualities of those elements, the gunas of those elements. So that was 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 of the 24 steps in this consciousness. And then we'll move over to these elements and their qualities have sensory organs and then like motor actor, like active organs or applications, faculties of action they have here, right? So hearing can be related to sound, which is connected to ether. So space, we receive space and sound through our hearing, right? There's space in our ears. We receive air and touch or through our skin. This says touch here, but my form says skin. Through our skin, right? That's our organ that receives that. Um, Fire has the form, and this says vision, but it's our eyes, right? So the sensory organ of fire and sight are our eyes. The sensory organ of water and taste would be tongue. Our tongue is our sensory organ for that. And then the sensory organ for earth and odor is smell, which would be our nose. So that's how our physical body relates back to the applications of the elements and how we receive them. So how we act on those, going back to ether. So the active faculty or part of our body with space and sound would be our mouth, would be our speech. The combination of our vocal cords and our tongue and our lips, all that makes us be able to create sound. Excuse me. So then the next faculty would be of air, which is of touch. Our skin is seen as our hands, right? So we have a lot of movement in our body, but the main one we think of is our hands in terms of being able to touch and move things. The fire element with sight and our eyes, now this is where it gets a little interesting. It is walking. So it's our feet would be our active organ because it takes us to where we want to go. That's how I was taught it. So our feet being that. So often if people feel stuck, you don't have vision, sometimes you'll have restless leg issues. You'll have varicose vein issues in your legs and your lower extremities. So that's where that shows up and it's tied to this wisdom. Then the sensory or the motor organ or kind of faculty of water, which is taste, and we receive it through our mouth. This changes and goes to our procreation or our reproductive organs. This is what builds and creates, right? So it creates life. Water is life. So it's tied to our reproductive organs in this system. And then the last one being earth, which is smell through our nose. How we eliminate is through our excretory organs, our waste, our urine, our feces. How are we eliminating those things? So these are the organic, these are the inorganic, as you can see here, is an overview of Ayurveda from the first video and the Sankhya philosophy of how consciousness has come into matter with the different qualities or gunas, overall of the sattva, rajas, tamas, the different essences, I'll say right now, is what's coming to me. And then the elements, their qualities, and then how we perceive them and act on them in our body. So that is a very philosophical foundation between this Ayurveda we're doing that I think is important for you to have a grasp of through this video as we talk about things going forward. So if you have questions or want clarification on something, email me, write me, bring it to our next meeting. All right. Thank you. See you soon.